Hello, everybody. Thanks for tuning live. Let's see who has joined us this evening, or if you are dialing in, or if you're watching from another part of the world, good morning, happy lunchtime, and good evening. Just going to wait a few minutes before we get started to see who is going to log on for today's Empowered Leader conversation. Let's see if you are watching live. If you want to leave a comment below and let us know where you are tuning in from. Hi, Miranda. Thanks for joining. And happy belated birthday. Hope you enjoyed it. So Miranda's a good friend of mine. She is dialing in from Texas. She's watching from Texas. Okay, so I'm gonna get started. Hopefully everybody will join us and tune into this amazing conversation. Hi, Maya. Thanks for tuning in. Let's see who else is gonna join live today. Oh, we have a third viewer. Let's see who's watching. We got two from, let's see who's tuning in. Say hi if you're tuning in. Say hello. Tell me where you're watching from. Oh, we have another person tuning in live. If you're tuning in live, let us know who you are and where you are watching from, what location. We got Virginia, we have Texas, obviously Germany. I like to get the shouts out of the way. All right, so I'm going to get started today. I wanted to, first of all, I want to say hello, Globals. I'm very excited about our second Empowered Leader conversation. We had one last month where I hosted Dr. Dorina Duche, where she shared her amazing success story and the challenges that she went through and shared her leadership advice. And today I'm thrilled to present another good friend, an amazing leader with 23 years of Air Force service and so much more. So I'll get to introduce him in just a few minutes. So let's see who else is tuning in today. We have Merrick Green. Hello from Alabama. Thanks for joining. All right. Well, for those that don't know me and are tuning in for the first time to the Empowered Leader Conversations, my name is Belita Dominguez, also known as Coach Belly, and I'm a life and leadership coach that provides tips, advice, coaching, and most importantly, I provide events just like this one to help you lead a more empowered life and inspire others to do the same. This is one of my greatest passions in this lifetime, is really being able to provide this kind of a platform so that we can exchange ideas, so that we can grow together throughout our lives and as we become better leaders. So the reason I started this Empowered Leader Conversation series is to provide a platform for leaders around the world. So when I say leaders, it's not just a leader who is like a manager or a supervisor or an executive. We are all leaders because we all have the power to lead our own lives in the best direction possible. And so this is why I wanted to make sure that this is not just us having a conversation between myself and our special guest, but also I want to hear from you. I want to get your questions, your thoughts, and also your experiences regarding today's topic around leadership and overcoming doubts and much more. So today I'm excited to introduce you, and I'm going to bring him up here on this on our live screen. Hello, Merrick.
Hey, how are you?
Good. So made him surprise here. So I just wanted to say that I'm excited to have you join us today. I want everybody who's tuning in to know that I'm very excited that I get a chance to introduce you and have you be part of this conversation. So Lt Col Merrick Green, United States Air Force. We actually met in Ramstein, Germany. His wife and I used to work together. And so we all became part of the family. And so I had an opportunity to learn a lot from him, to see all the things that he was involved in. And this is why I wanted to bring him on to today's conversation. So Lt Col Merrick Green. So Merrick is going to share his personal and life leadership story of overcoming doubt. And so much more, despite the environment that he grew up in, growing up as a kid. And Merrick came from very humble beginnings, from New Orleans, Louisiana. And despite the things that he had to go through, he was able to overcome and succeed. So one of the things that Merrick and I talked about when we were doing the prep for this interview, he was sharing about his story as a kid, and he had to like work and have a part-time job and all these different things, and all the way through where eventually he established his dream of becoming an Air Force officer for 23 years, and now starting his own business. So he started a tech company, and you can kind of see below that he's has his own company around web development. And so Merrick was able to really work hard through his career. Not only did he work hard, he also was able to get his education in. He graduated from Louisiana State University, where he earned a master's degree in information technology from Colorado Technical University. So he was able to do all of this, and then he earned his master's degree while he was on active duty. So he was a busy guy. So I'm sure his wife Maya tells him, "You're always busy, got a lot going on, but you're doing a lot of wonderful things." So that's what's important. And so, so even though people told him growing up that maybe he would fail, or don't try this, don't try that, there was nothing really out of reach. He was not afraid of hard work, and he completed his degree. He was able to, when he went into active duty, he entered into just multiple leadership roles, and he holds the air rating of Master Air Battle Manager and is a true global leader. So he's been to Germany, he's been to Turkey, he's been all over the US, and basically he has over 2,000 hours of military surveillance systems experience, and 500 hours are from combat. So all of that, he still had time to start his own business. and he's also has been really involved in the community. So despite all the stereotypes that were branded on him throughout his lifetime, he was able to take his successes and give back to others in several community and professional organizations, where he holds several leadership positions, such as Toastmasters and Phi Beta Sigma fraternity. And through his fraternity, he was recognized as the Phi Beta Sigma Man of the Year. So I'm sure he'll tell you more about that later. And so again, I am thrilled to have Merrick join us to be a part of this Empowered Leader conversation. And I'm thrilled that you are also a part of this conversation as well. So without further ado, Merrick, thanks for joining. And in your own words, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself, your family, and why you wanted to share your empowered leader story with the audience today?
All right. Well, thank you, Bella, for that wonderful introduction. I think I remember asking you once when we were in Germany if you would be my life coach when I found out all the things that you were into and all that you were doing. So I felt like I needed some help and some direction, because I felt like I was all over the place. And Maya's probably told you a couple of times that I'm really into a lot of things and can never really decide what I want to start and stop. So I just do everything that I possibly can. But I think you summed up most, if not all, of my background. Originally from New Orleans, like you said, went to LSU, joined the Air Force, and it's been a tremendous journey for the last 23 years. It's, I reflect on it from time to time, and I think about all the things that I've been able to do, all the people that I've been able to meet. And it's just been a wonderful experience. And I would never have traded it for anything else. It was probably the best decision I could have ever made, because joining the Air Force, I met my wife in Montgomery, Alabama. We have a daughter, Marley, who's 12 years old and is a ballerina. And things are just going really well for us right now. So I have no complaints, and I'm glad to be with you here today.
Thank you so much. And one unique thing about Merrick that I wanted him to share, he's into scuba diving.
Yes.
So, I'm a little scared to go down that far in the water, but tell us a little bit more about that. I'm just curious to know the audience regarding your scuba diving adventures.
So I started diving when I was in Turkey, and it kind of goes back to the theme of today's meeting, you know, about overcoming doubt and self-doubt. And, you know, it's one of those things where I never in my life had ever thought I would consider scuba diving. But, you know, somebody offered me an opportunity and I took it because I'm a true believer in you really can't turn down or say something's bad for you and not good for you unless you've tried it. So with scuba diving, it was like that for me. I did it in Turkey and I fell in love with it. And ever since then, I've been able to keep diving. We had an awesome assignment down in Florida, and I got to dive a lot in the Gulf of Mexico with some really cool friends down there. And I was able to continue diving even when I was in Germany, going on vacation with some friends to Croatia to go scuba diving for a bottle of wine that you can ask Maya about. That was a wonderful birthday gift that I thought that it was wonderful, but she didn't really think it was. It was just another way for me to go scuba diving.
Yeah, and we'll have to bring her on one of these empowered conversations as well and hear from her side of the story.
Yes, definitely.
Well, that's great. That's awesome. Maybe one day I'll try some scuba diving. It's on my bucket list. It's on my bucket list. So let's get started in today's interview, today's conversation. So let's start first with this question. I have this question regarding what has been the most challenging thing that you have faced in your life?
I think the most challenging thing I face is just deciding what to do. There's so many opportunities for me now, later on in life. I think in the beginning, I may have not had, I know I didn't have as many opportunities as I did now, but just deciding on exactly what it was I wanted to do. And the thing that I tell people now is you're trying to figure out what it is you want to do, is that you want to at least talk to somebody that's in the career field or the job that you think you want to do. Find a place or an office that does what you want to do and just simply ask some questions about it. Learn as much as you can about what you think you can do, because you only get to do this life one time. And lots of people make plenty of mistakes, and making mistakes okay, but sometimes you want to make sure you don't make mistakes that are permanent. So you want to try things out and never discredit anything, and never let anybody tell you that you can't do something, because there are a lot of people that will discourage you based on their own experiences that they had in life and may have not tried things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that during one of our prep interviews, you'd mentioned something about a story about your guidance counselor.
Yes.
So and would you share a little bit about that? Because that's an interesting challenge that you went through.
Yeah. So when I was in high school, I probably wasn't the best student. I was okay. But, you know, I decided my senior year, my junior year at college, that I wanted to go to LSU. And that was kind of the mark on the wall for me, to drive 65 miles north of New Orleans to go to school in Baton Rouge. And I remember talking to my guidance counselor about it, and he thought it was the worst idea I ever had. You know, he was like, he straight up told me that he did not think I would be successful at LSU. And I thought, you know, I kind of was like, well, that's real messed up that, you know, you're not even giving me a shot. Here it is. I'm just mentioning this to you as an idea, and you've already shot me down in my desires to go to school. So I got accepted. Not only did I get accepted, I was accepted into the Summer Scholar program. And I spent, you know, right after graduation, I started my freshman year of college, probably 2 weeks after I graduated from high school. So, you know, went to LSU. There were some bumps and bruises along the way. I learned some valuable lessons. While in college, I joined ROTC. And so I had the ability to get commissioned as a second lieutenant in the Air Force right as I graduated from college.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. And the best part about this story is the first job in the Air Force, I was what they call the gold bar recruiter. And my job was to drive around the state of Louisiana to recruit high school kids for college ROTC and the Air Force Academy. And so the way we did that is we used to go to high school college fairs. And then one day I'm looking at the list of the high school college fairs, and there it was on the list. It was there, my high school, Warren Easton, so I got to go back. And I remember walking into the school as a brand new second lieutenant, and I walked up to the counselor, and he was so excited to see me. And my shiny, blue uniform and my gold bars, he was really excited to see me. And then I just kind of looked at him and like, hey, do you remember me, right? You remember what you told me was not to go to LSU, not to be successful. And so there I was kind of like, here I am as, kind of a right back at you kind of deal that, really the worst advice you could give any high school students, to tell them to not try to go after their goals in their dreams.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's such a great story. And this is why I wanted you to share it, because when you first told me this story, it really resonates, because when somebody's that young and someone tells them something like that this is not possible for you, and you did it anyways. Mm-hmm. And that really shows a lot of determination. And for all of us that are watching from the audience, and maybe from our own experiences as adults, sometimes people, or even ourselves in our minds, right, we tell ourselves it's not possible. And so this is just a great example of that you were able to make it possible regardless of what was put in front of you. Now, going back to the question around, you mentioned about the thing that was most challenging is deciding like what to do, like all these different doors and different options. So with all these different options and your experiences, what do you think has provided you the directions as to like what's the best step to take next? So maybe you have all these options, but what helped you decide, okay, now I'm going to do this and now I'm going to do that? So what was it that helped you decide?
So I think I'm a planner. I like to think of myself as a planner. I methodically look at things, and Maya asks me this all the time. She'll ask me a question and she'll be like, what are you doing? It's like, well, I'm thinking about it. I can't give you an answer because I'm going through the different steps and scenarios and the what ifs and everything else to give you an answer. But I can't give you an answer right now. It's going to take me a while to figure out what it is I want to do. So a lot of times I seek advice from people, friends, colleagues, mentors, in order to make a decision, especially if it's something really, really important. My cousin Martin tells me that all the time that I'm the most indecisive person he knows because I will make a decision and then I'll change my mind and then I'll think about it some more, or I'll wait to the last minute to make a decision because I'm always, spinning the wheels in my head. So I think a lot of it is input from people, do a lot of reading and just investigation and trying to figure out just what the best decision is to make. And I don't think I'm from a shoot from the hip kind of decision maker. I actually like to spend a lot of time thinking about it, or just procrastination, whatever you want to call it. But I
analyzing.
Yes.
Well, good. I was curious to see, because I know a lot of people, and I've also been in that place where you have all these options and all these interests, and but there's always a common thread, right? So I'm gonna throw a question out here. Hopefully you're ready for it. But what would you say? What would you say is the common thread amongst all the things that you've done, all the different things that you're interested in? What do you think is like maybe the one thing that's like, oh, this is the one thing they have in common, or one thing that I enjoy about them?
That's a great question, because I really don't know. I don't know what draws all the strings together. I could definitely say it's like influenced by my family. It is like legacy. We talked about legacy. What do we want to leave behind? So there's I think, and at the core of it, that's probably the thing, right? So the family, the legacy, and doing what's best for them, not necessarily me all the time.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, that's really great. So yeah, so you may have and this is one of the things that I work with my clients around coaching when they're trying to figure out what they want to do with their lives. And I just say, look, think about what are your values, what's the common thread in all your different interests. And it all boils down to, really core things and for you, it seems like family is really, really important.
Yeah. And I know, we're going to get to it later, but I think another one of the things is that I am in a sense, like a servant leader, right? We talk about leadership, and my big thing is I get complete satisfaction from helping other people. And when I can see somebody else succeed, that kind of builds in me my ability to be rewarded in that. When I see somebody else be successful, and it's not just about me.
Absolutely.
especially in
Going back to servant leadership.
Yes, yes.
So, in your career, in your lifetime, so whether it's something professional or something personal, would you say has been the most rewarding thing that you've experienced so far?
Okay, so far, because we talked about this, and I said I don't think I've got to the most rewarding thing yet. I feel like, it's like it's a leadership ladder, and I'm continuing to climb it. So there have been some very high wins and rewarding things that I've gone through. One of the most rewarding was being inducted into my high school's Hall of Fame. That was a big deal for me, being inducted into my high school Hall of Fame. When I was a kid in high school, I looked at this Hall of Fame for 4 years as a student in this school, and I saw a lot of people that didn't look like me. And then finally to be somebody on the wall that other people could see and, possibly say to themselves like, hey, I may be on this Wall of Fame one day. It was a big deal when I was inducted into the Hall of Fame in my high school.
Exactly. I mean, there's a lot of people that have broken the glass ceiling, if you will, that are the first. And how do you think that this has impacted you personally and other people that saw you get inducted into the Hall of Fame?
Well, I think for the people that saw it and the people that see the photos and look at that Wall of Fame and see people of diverse backgrounds, it kind of lets them know that, I could do it too. Like I could possibly be on this wall one day, or I could do something, bigger than myself in life. I also think that when you talk about, you got to go back to the question about doing rewarding things is, definitely being a squadron commander in the Air Force. That was a huge reward for me to lead people and to lead a squadron. And it tested all of my inner abilities, even from the first day of command until the last one. And that was definitely an honor and a pleasure to serve in the world's, best Air Force as a squadron commander.
So for those non-military people, can you explain a little bit about what does a squadron commander do and how many people does a squadron commander lead?
So in my particular instance, I led about 200 people, civilian, military. We had some contractors too. So it was a diverse organization. And at the end of the day, I was responsible for everything. If somebody did something that they weren't supposed to do, it was on my shoulders to discipline them or reward them, or set the policies that were in place. If somebody violated the policies, it was probably my fault if I didn't explain what they were, even though they violated them. So in a sense, everything kind of was, on me to be responsible for. And it was a wonderful experience and responsibility to have. And it was a good one.
Wow, so you had a huge responsibility on your shoulders. But again, it shows a lot of strength and character. And most importantly, I'm sure you led very well, considering what you mentioned about what's important to you around being a servant leader. And so I can see why that would be a very rewarding experience. So let's jump into this next topic. One of our key topic for today is overcoming doubt. And you mentioned a little bit of story in the beginning of our conversation here, but can you share your experience on an example of, what advice do you have around how do you overcome doubt? And for those that are listening in, that are listening in now, but also those that will tune in later, what advice would you give them or your words of wisdom around this topic?
Yeah, so don't listen to the voices inside your head that tell you not to do something or not to try to do something, because you can be your worst critic or your best motivator, but you don't want to doubt yourself, right? Because if other people can't motivate you, you probably will not be able to motivate yourself. So you have to believe that whatever it is you want to achieve, that you can do it. And it starts with you. It starts by you telling yourself that there's something out there, some goal that you want to achieve, and you just got to go for it. You got to build a plan. You have to put all the, build your short-term plan, your long-term plan, put all those things in place and just go for it. And you'll start to see your plan unfold over time, and you'll be able to follow those steps. And then if the plan doesn't work as you're developing this plan and following it, just start to develop a new one. You know, you got to have a plan A, B, and C, sometimes a D and an E also. And you got to be willing to try anything. You got to be willing to just try and step out there on faith and know that it's going to work out. And then if it doesn't work out, you can at least say you tried. But, you know, if you never try anything, you know, you can't ever say, well, you know, I didn't even give it a shot, so I can't even begin to tell you what it's really like. And then finally, don't let other people tell you what you can or cannot do. There are a lot of people out there in their own lives that haven't tried and had experiences that they may have wanted to have. And those people will reflect that negative energy on you because they don't want to see you succeed. And so you definitely want to, you know, you want to listen to people and you want to have people give you advice. But then, you know, you also want people to be in your corner encouraging you to do and try the things that you want to do. So you want to, you know, selectively listen to the people around you, and you want to, you know, listen more to the people that are going to encourage you.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you're always going to have the naysayers. So you would definitely want to have the people that are going to encourage you, at least more of those than the ones that are going to say no. And most importantly, you not being the naysayer to yourself, right? That self-doubt. So I don't know if you can think of an example, but let's say, have you been in a situation where you've hit the wall, where you've literally, you have doubted yourself? And how did you get out of that? Because there's people out there that maybe they've been on top of their game, it's going well, and then boom, something just terrible happens, or things didn't turn out exactly how they had planned, and now they're stressing out. So have you had that kind of experience? And can you share an example, or maybe like how you got through that?
Yeah. Okay. So the Air Force, you probably heard this before, but many of the listeners may have not heard this acronym before, called the OODA Loop.
The OODA Loop, yes.
The OODA Loop. And it's exactly, I mean, you think about it in its basic sense is observe, orient, observe, decide, and act. OODA. In the loop, because you do it all over and over again. And it's a simple concept, but it works. You know, whenever you're able to take a step back, look at something that may have gone wrong, figure out what went wrong, and, you know, reassess it and then jump back into the process again, but do it differently this time, then that's what you want to do, because you can figure out what happened and what went wrong the last time, and you can, you know, not repeat that same mistake again. Like we talked, you know, I'm a big video game player, and a lot of people may not know this, but I play video games. Maya probably got me one of the best gifts 2 years ago, which was an Oculus Quest headset. And then the game, you have different levels that you will do in the game, and then you can do the same thing over and over again and continue dying on the same level, or you can do something different the next time. And that's kind of how life is that, you know, but in the game you get unlimited chances, in life you sometimes don't. But what you want to be able to do is look at what happened, decide what you need to do differently, apply that, and then move forward. And you'll get a different result the next time.
Yeah, that's really great advice. I know that, you know, it's human nature to hit the wall. It's human nature to get frustrated. It's human nature to doubt yourself. And sometimes you got to just, you know, like you said, go through that cycle of, okay, where am I now? What's really happening? Let me really observe, and then come up with a game plan of how I'm going to get myself out of the situation. So that's really, really critical. I probably would add also, like, if your energy has gone down, then figure out a way to get the energy back up. So, you know, try to get yourself in a place where you can think clearly, which is really, really, really important.
Yeah.
So,
I had a friend recently post something on Instagram, and this is Devin posted this on Instagram. A friend of mine named Devin posted this on Instagram recently. And he said, when you die, you have 6 to 7 pallbearers carrying you, right? When you are carrying your coffin. It's like, imagine what it will be like if you had 6 to 7 people pushing you or carrying you when you're alive. And I was like, that was deep.
That's powerful.
It is very powerful. And it's true. I mean, if you have 6 to 7 people that are encouraging you and pushing you to help you achieve your goals, that's, you know, it's a lot different than having 6 or 7 people that are telling you that how you can't do something.
That's really powerful. Wow, I've never really heard of that example before. And I want to pause here, and I want to get some thoughts and questions from the audience. What does the audience think about Merrick's advice so far about overcoming doubt, and even this example he gave around having the people that are going to encourage you, having kind of that squad, that team? What thoughts or questions you have, go ahead and type them in as we continue to have this conversation. What questions, what thoughts you have around overcoming doubts, or what experiences have you had in your lifetime that you'd like to share? So we'll continue on, but please share your thoughts and your questions regarding this. And I want to add, I really like that example you mentioned about the pallbearer versus the people that push you. And there are a lot of people out there that I've talked to that believe that either they're very good about giving to others. They want to help and push other people, but they won't accept that support.
No, you have to, you have to accept it. I think it goes both ways. People, when you surround yourself with people that are willing to help you, push you, you got to expect that those people are going to want to be able to push you too, or push somebody else. But I think it works both ways, and you need those type of people around you. I have a close group of friends. I have, 23 years. I've had lots of military friends that I went to high school with. Friends that I know I can call in a moment's notice and bounce an idea off of them, and they'll tell me that that's completely insane, not good advice that I listen to, and people that will be honest with you, about things that you want to do and things that you're going through, and you need to surround yourself with people like that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really, really critical.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go on to this. One of my favorite questions, one of my favorite topics is personal values. This is like, I think the values question is one of my favorite questions to ask my guests, because I really believe that this is the foundation of everything. Like when you're clear about your values, everything lines up, with the values that you have, whether it's your goals, your pursuits, your careers, whatever it is in life that you pursue. You feel completely connected when they're aligned to your values. So that being said, what would you say are your personal values, and why are they important to you?
So the first two values kind of go hand in hand. And the one is being honest with people and don't sugarcoat things. A lot of times, we'll kind of work our way around things and tell people kind of broadly, not directly what they are. But I'm a believer in, just being honest and not to sugarcoat things with people. And the other thing is I believe in communicating early and often. Everybody's heard the saying, like, no, bad news doesn't get better with time. But this is one of the reasons why I enjoy being in Toastmasters, because I'm learning different ways to communicate and learning my communication style. And I think it's important that, we communicate with each other, because a lot of times people will misunderstand body language or misunderstand actions. And instead of just asking the person, what did they mean when they said that? Or what did they mean when they did that? They just assume things about the action of the communication. And now you're sort of off the rails saying, well, that person doesn't like me or the way I do X, Y, or Z. But then if my thing is people tell me this, ask me these things or tell me these things. I ask, well, did you ask them, what did they think about what you did or what you said? And they were like, no, I just know that they did X, Y, or Z. And that's where communication comes. And it's important in relationships and work relationships and personal relationships. Communication is so important, because we will naturally misunderstand what somebody's actions may have been, or the way they looked at us, or what they said, instead of just talking to them and asking them, what did you mean by this?
It's really, really important. So tell me about, going back to about sugarcoating things. What's the best way to communicate something that may not be the easiest to take, but in a way that you're honest and direct, but yet you're not gonna maybe hurt somebody's feelings or maybe insult them? Because I think this is tough for a lot of people. It's either sugarcoat it like way too much and don't tell them the truth, or they're overly honest, and then all of a sudden it's like creates a problem in the conversation. So how do you handle this?
So there are two phrases that I love that people use all the time. And the first one's a phrase. The second one is just a word. The first phrase is, for example, when somebody says, "Can I be honest with you?" Like I wasn't being honest with you before, but now I'm really going to be honest with you. And the other one would be, oh man, it's going to leave me right now. I'll come back to it in a second. I'll think of it in a second. But the other one is the word "but."
Oh yeah, yes.
So whenever you explain something to somebody, you quantify, you qualify something with somebody, and you know that was a really great presentation, but the minute you say "but," everything you said before "but," it really wasn't a good presentation, because what I really wanted to tell you was it wasn't good, and here's the reason why. And just like when you go back to the phrase "Can I be honest with you?" or "I don't mean to be a tyrant," or "I don't mean to be anything," and then they combine the two. It's like, "I don't mean to be overly anxious about this, but I'm about to be overly anxious about this," or whatever.
Oh, they put them both together.
Exactly. You put them both together, and you get a combination of "just tell me whatever it is you wanted to tell me."
Yes. So yeah, I've heard about this. I tend to be pretty candid. It's the word I want to say. But I remember I took this leadership class years ago, and they were saying like the best way to give somebody feedback is to say, whatever the feedback is, like great things. And instead of using the word "but," you say, "and I think you could be more effective."
Yep. That's right.
So, versus saying "but," you say, "and I think your presentation could have been much more effective if
Exactly.
you were to try this." But yeah, this is great. So as far as your personal value, it seems like, honestly, being honest, okay, number one, and don't sugarcoat things, which really goes hand in hand with being honest.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you can be honest, but also in the way that you're honest. So being able to give somebody the truth in a way where they get it, it's real. And they can do something with it. And also you said communicate early and often. Yeah. So have you had an experience where you were not communicated to early and often, and how did that turn out?
It was a horrible experience. I think that, especially as a leader, right? When you talk about leadership, when you're in charge of people, or you're in charge of something, and when you take these things and you put them all together about being honest and not sugarcoating, it's especially important as a leader if you have somebody in your organization that's not performing well. The thing to not do is to empower them or keep telling them, patting them on the back, saying they're doing a great job. If they're not doing a great job, you have to tell them that they're not, because you can't have somebody that's underperforming in an organization and they're underperforming and you can't do anything about it. You just go in your office and close your door and say, "I wish they would do better." You have to communicate to them that they're not doing what they need to do, and they need to step up their game. And a lot of times when people don't know that, they just think they're doing fine, because I never got any negative feedback that I wasn't doing fine. I can't change my behavior. I can't change the way that I'm doing something. So
Absolutely.
that's where the communication early and often comes in, because you need to be able to adjust the ship, so to speak. If I was in the Navy, I would say that adjust the ship, so that way you can move it in the right direction.
Yeah.
But without that communication and without that honesty with the people that you're with, whether that's in a peer-to-peer relationship or a leader-manager relationship, you'll just be delusional in your actions and what you're doing, because everybody will think they're doing just fine. But at the end of the day, you go home and you're frustrated because what you want to happen isn't happening.
Yeah, so it really ends up being terrible for the leader, because they're not getting the output they need from that employee, for example. But it's also frustrating for that employee who's not getting that honest feedback so that they can improve, because who knows, maybe they're not even aware of the issue. Right. So, in your experience, why do you think leaders don't communicate early and often? What do you think are some of the sort of red flags for the audience to be aware of for themselves? Number one, because we're going about our day and maybe we're not communicating early enough. And so what do you think are some of the reasons why leaders don't communicate early and often enough?
I think everybody learns from the people around them and the leaders that they have, so unfortunately being in the Air Force as a lieutenant, you see your squadron commander, you see your flight commanders, and you learn values from the people that lead you, and you put all of these in your little green book. And when it's your turn, you start to pull out all these lessons. And a lot of times, or many times, people may not have those types of leaders that they want to emulate. So, you just kind of make it up as you go. And fortunately, I had the opportunity to be around really good commanders and really good leaders that I was able to, and some bad ones too, that I was able to take notes from and say to myself, when it's my turn, to be in charge, or it's my turn to be a squadron commander, these are the ways that I'm going to do it. And so one of the stories I'll share with you was from one of my squadron commanders. His name's J.T. Russell. And I remember as a young flight commander being called into his office and being told a story about priorities. And he gave me his priority story in a really interesting way when it was like a circus. And he explained it to be, priorities are like a circus where you have to juggle some things sometimes. And you have glass balls and you have rubber balls. So as you're juggling these balls, as a circus clown, which is what he was saying we were as flight commanders, you can drop some of them, right? You can drop a rubber ball and it's okay. It'll bounce back. But if you drop one of the glass balls, that's it. It doesn't bounce back.
It breaks.
Yes, it'll break. So be very mindful of your priorities. And that was his way of explaining priorities on the things that you're doing as a leader and what you're juggling. So.
That's a great example. And you bring in a lot of great examples, and I'm going to have to take from you, because these are definitely things that I've never thought of. Yeah, that's true. You are juggling multiple priorities, and some priorities, if you drop them, it's hard to put them back together. It's really hard to put them back together. Yeah. So so far, basically, these are your key values that have shaped you. And along with these values, who has shaped you to the leader that you are today?
So I've had
who and what has shaped you as a leader?
So thank you. I've had some amazing opportunities in my lifetime to be around some really cool mentors and individuals. And we talked about this story when we talked last week and this week. And so the story I'll share with you is, as a young kid growing up in New Orleans, I've always been interested in politics. And I remember as maybe in high school or something, there was an election for a congressional seat. And there was a young man that ran for Congress and he lost. And I remember telling my mother that I had a solution, or I kind of had an idea why he lost and why the people of New Orleans didn't elect him, or why the people in Louisiana didn't elect him. And she was like, you should tell him yourself. And so the person was Mark Morial, who's now the president of the Urban League. And at the time, I didn't think, New Orleans is a small city and everybody really knows each other. But I got the opportunity to meet with him. And it started a long relationship throughout my high school time and throughout my college time of sort of working for him and working with him. He eventually went to become the mayor of New Orleans, and now he's the president of the Urban League. And we occasionally will, send emails back and forth. But it was just being around him and learning things from him and seeing him navigate. And, eventually he was a state senator, and I got to go work in the state Senate for a little while. So I got exposed to a lot of things that opened my eyes up really to, what was in the realm of the possible, just kind of getting out of New Orleans and seeing the world. From starting my first trip to Washington, D.C. to my first deployment, and then eventually living overseas twice. Yeah. And those experiences really gave me, opened my eyes up to what was out there in the realm of the possible, and just being around people like that. And like I said, my former squadron commanders, I've had some great mentors in the Air Force, of people that you can just call at the drop of a dime and ask questions to, and they give you some good advice.
Yeah. And this is great, because this really ties also in what you said earlier about, having those people that are supporting you, that will push you forward, that will help you grow, that help you, learn more about yourself and to be successful because of those people that support you. So having those mentors is really critical. And it doesn't matter at what age. I mean, it seems like you've had mentors through your entire life. I still have mentors, and I try myself to be a mentor to other people, whether it be my friends or, through my fraternity, we adopt schools and we work with, younger people.
But I definitely believe in giving back and be able to show people, give them opportunities, because you never know what opportunity you give somebody that'll change their life, because they may not have had it if they hadn't have met you and had the opportunity to learn something new from somebody.
Absolutely. I'm learning every day. I'm learning from you right now. I'm taking notes. I'm taking notes on all these examples that you're giving today. So hopefully the audience is doing the same, and those that are tuning in. So if the audience has any questions, any comments, please type them in the chat box, the comment box, and let us know what your thoughts and your questions are so far regarding any of the topics we've covered so far here with Merrick. And so we talked about values. So let's talk about what's most influential. So let's talk about now what has given you the most meaning in your life.
I probably being a father. That's was definitely like a game changer of raising this little a baby to now almost a teenager. She'll be 13 this summer, and I think that was definitely like a changer for me as I was growing up. Being married was also one of those things. Having Maya along for the ride, through the Air Force and her Air Force journey. But definitely being a father has kind of changed me as I am most influential with her. And I kind of watch her model and follow me in the things that I do, even though I'm not a ballerina. It was interesting when I tried to convince her to play music, because in my family in New Orleans, music is influential in everything that we do. I believe that at least all of my family, starting with my dad and my aunts and uncles, they all are musically inclined in some kind of way. So it's a requirement almost in our family to have some type of musical talent or some gift, so that when we have family reunions, it's like we get the band back together again.
Yes, I love it. I'm actually learning to play guitar, so I can definitely tell you, yes, music is important, definitely important. So as far as this experience of being a family man, being a husband, being a father, how has that changed you? What would you say has been the biggest change for you having that experience?
I think it's made me patient. So, I like to think I used to be very impatient. And, my mom would tell you, if she was in this call right now, how I would turn 6 years old and I would say, I can't wait till my 7th birthday, like on the day that I turned 6 or the day that I turned 10, looking for 11. So I was always and have been a pretty impatient person. And I think definitely as a squadron commander, I had to learn that things wouldn't be done when I wanted them to be done. And the same with being a husband and a father, is that things don't happen exactly, or when I say I want, when I want them to happen, they happen in their own little schedule. And then I just have to deal with it. And it's the same thing with work and, being in a work environment, that people move to the own beat of their own drum sometimes.
Yeah, you got to go with the flow.
You do. You have to go with the flow. So.
Oh my goodness. So speaking of patience, I think you and I talked about it. You mentioned this, but would you say that's been the greatest lessons you've learned so far?
No, not probably. So far, yes. I think I still have some lessons to learn. I'm not done yet. But so far, being patient, yes, is good things come to those who wait. It's an old tale, but it's true. You have to be patient sometimes when you want things to happen, and you can't just rush everything. So sometimes you have to take a step back and breathe and just take your time. I don't know where I was, if it was, in Germany, somebody mentioned to me about being mindful. And I never heard this concept of being mindful before, because I was never really a mindful person. But then I read about it on the internet, or I got a brochure. I don't know exactly what happened. But lately I've been doing walks. And so I'm in another organization called FACTS. In March, I believe, we had a 75-mile challenge. So we had to get out and walk 75 miles in 30-something days. So what I found myself doing in for this challenge was I'd walk 5 miles and I would take my hat, put it down over my head, and only look at my feet and be right there in the moment. And then it would allow me to think about different things and just be mindful and in the moment where I was right now, not looking at the road of the next 4 or 5 miles that I had to walk, but just look at the mile or the step that I was on right then and there. And I start to reflect on a lot of things during these walks. And as I looked at my feet on these 5-mile walks, before I knew it, I was at the end of my journey. I was at the end of my 5 miles, and it was over. And sometimes I said to myself, well, I need a little more time to get through some more thoughts today. But because I'm getting older, I tend to forget what I thought about on my walk. If I didn't write it down, I make a voice note. So.
Yeah, but I think it's really interesting though, because the thing about mindfulness is to be in the present moment. There's no past and there's no future. You're just in that moment. And you're just focused on every step you're taking, every breath you're taking, it's being in that moment. It lets your mind relax a bit.
Yeah.
And it helps you think more clearly so that, you can kind of go about your day and back to the fast-paced life that we tend to live.
Yes.
So yeah, that's interesting. Your experience with mindfulness is something that I've definitely started really getting into this last year as well. So it's really helpful.
And now I really enjoy my walks.
Yes, absolutely. Being in touch with nature, it's really great.
Yeah.
So let's look at going back in the future. If you could go back in your time machine and you could talk to your younger version of yourself, go back and talk to younger Merrick, or in general, like what would be your advice to your younger self?
My advice would be to invest, right? Probably invest in Amazon and Tesla is what I tell myself.
Okay.
Who knew the bookstore was going to be as big as it is now and buy MGM? They acquired an entire movie company, I think, yesterday.
Yeah, I saw that on the New York Times. I saw that they were talking about that. Yeah, so definitely invest. So, but and so speaking of investment, so personally, what would you advise your younger self or the people in the audience or anybody who's gonna watch this later on the replay? What would you invest in yourself? What should you invest in yourself?
I think you should invest time. You should definitely, read more, study more, invest in the people around you. So you invest in your friends because the people around you that are going to be successful like you want to invest in them so that in turn they invest in you, and together you grow. And it's like the compounding interest thing with people. So when you invest in good people around you, you'll get good growth in return on your investment, right? And when you invest in bad people around you, you'll get a negative return on your investment. It's kind of like the stock market.
Absolutely.
That's definitely what I would do. I mean, I would look at that, and I mean, sometimes we don't know. We don't know what the people around us are going to do, but sometimes you have indications on how people are going to perform around us, and everybody gives people chances. So you just have to be careful with who you're calling your friends and who you're going to give those chances to.
Yeah, that's really great advice. I mean, being able to be investing in yourself, the time you give yourself, and the kind of people that you give your time to. Because they can suck the energy out of you and really bring you down if you allow them.
Yep.
Or they can pull you up. So that's kind of a thing that, I mean, you also mentioned that it's one of the tips you brought up around how do you overcome doubt. And being able to invest in yourself, being able to invest in the right people that are going to support you is going to help build that self-confidence in yourself and the decisions that you make. So that's such a critical piece of advice that you can give somebody.
Yeah.
So what would you say you're most proud of in your life?
Yeah, I feel like I still got a lot to go. I have further to go. But so far, like I said, my Air Force career, I'm proud of the 23 years that I've done. Proud of being a father and a husband and being a mentor. I'm proud to have my picture on the Hall of Fame in my high school. Being a man of the year in 2 chapters of my fraternity. So I've moved around a lot, and I've been able to join different chapters of my fraternity in different states that I've lived in. And 2 times I've been selected as that chapter's man of the year. And that's been a big deal for me to be recognized for doing a lot of the work that we do. And, like I said, I'm still working on me. I still got a little bit more to go and some other things to try to, make other people around me and make myself proud of. I still have a couple of tricks up my sleeve, as they say.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really like this question because, and your answers, because like sometimes we don't give ourselves enough credit.
Mm-hmm.
We don't take the time to really celebrate the great things that we've accomplished in life. Sometimes people are very quick to criticize yourself, like, oh, I didn't do this, oh, I didn't get that done, or this didn't happen. But we don't take the time to really celebrate and to be proud of the things that we have accomplished. And that those kinds of achievements gives us the momentum we need to push forward towards the next thing that we want to accomplish in life. So that's really great that you had many experiences that you can be very proud of, not just for yourself, but I'm sure your family and your friends are also very proud of you as well.
Yes.
So let's talk about passion. So another awesome subject around passion. So what would you say are you most passionate about?
So I'm passionate about personal growth and helping other people. I'm really passionate about that. Maya, I think, told me one day, she's like, you don't have any bookends. Right. And I was like, what do you mean by that? You don't have any bookends. She's like, well, you spent all day at work, you came home, you're in a Toastmasters meeting, you're like logged on and then a fraternity meeting at the same time and going from one thing to the other. And you need to set boundaries for yourself on what it is you won't do. Or when somebody calls you and asks for help, to stop everything you're doing to try to help them, because, eventually you'll burn yourself out. So I'm trying to figure out, like, those bookends are way out there, and I'm trying to bring them in closer to give myself some boundaries.
Yeah, and that's the thing about boundaries is the way you set boundaries is by understanding that you have the right to take care of you.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't mean that if you take a time out to take care of you that you're not taking care of others. So there's finding that nice balance to know when to say yes and know when to say no.
Yeah.
And it's okay. It's completely okay.
Yeah.
So you're very passionate about a lot of things,
mm-hmm.
as we talked about.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your pursuit with your business. That's being an entrepreneur. How did that come about?
So maybe 2008 ish. A lot of people were asking me about building websites, and I was just like, no boundaries, right? So no bookends. So of course I'm going to help you build a website. What do you need? I learned this, a lot of it from my brother because he was doing a lot of website stuff, and I naturally had, gravitated to it because I just found it to be interesting. So then I decided to start MG4 Tech as I was learning about taxes and how it worked if you had a small business and all the benefits for being a small business owner in America and just going after entrepreneurship. So I started MG4 Tech with the intent to build websites for people that I knew, mostly my friends. But then recently, I got on board with a web design company called Wix, and Wix has made me a partner where they send me leads. And now I've found myself talking to people from all over the world to help them with their website problems. And it's really interesting to find people that need help and they're willing to pay for it. And so now I'm developing a different type of business model, more consultant based, and talking to people about building their websites and building their businesses. And it's all, based on lessons learned that I've had over the years to help me develop MG4 Tech into something bigger, than an idea just to help people with small website problems to actually, building some pretty big sites and some pretty impressive sites. So I'm excited about where it's going to go. Yeah. Because you have a website, right?
Yes, and I also use Wix. So I'll be calling you for some tech support there for sure. But I like the fact that, and this is something I want the audience to really just listen in a little bit and closely, because you started with this idea regarding developing with these websites and helping, but it's almost like you're also getting into consulting. How do I help these businesses grow? Because your website, how your presentation, how you find clients, that helps the growth of that business. So again, I see the common theme here with you, Merrick, is you just love to help people. I love it. And that's the true heart of a servant leader.
Yes.
So on that topic of leadership, how do you define leadership? And where do you see yourself as a leader now and in the future?
So I define leadership as the ability to influence other people to accomplish a goal or a mission. And, leaders need to be trusted, by the people that they lead. And you have to earn that trust, right? You can't just walk in day one, hey, you're named the boss, and then people are just going to carte blanche follow whatever you have to say, because people need to trust you and trust that you know what you're doing as a leader. And that is important, which is why sometimes it's okay to roll up your sleeves and get down in the weeds with people, because you got to be able to see it from their level and understand it from their position and where they are, and be able to lead them when they have questions in whatever problems you may have.
Absolutely. What do you think has been one of your biggest challenges as a leader?
To not stay in the weeds with the people I'm leading. It's because I like to understand things, and I feel like, if I can understand how something is done, whether that be a process or a procedure, then I can better help the people that, I'm asking to do it. And sometimes it's hard to not stay down in the weeds and do those things. And you have to pull yourself back up and remember why you're there, what you're doing, and that there are other facets and things that you need to do in order to lead.
Yeah, exactly. So getting into the weeds and getting into all the details of the things that people are doing at work. So but that's a fine balance, right? I mean, sometimes, I mean, it's important to know exactly what your people are doing, or at least have an idea of what they do. But just enough so that you can help them versus you're completely immersed in it, and then you can't really do your part as a leader. So it's having that fine balance that's really critical.
Yes.
So last question that I wanted to ask, really important question. You mentioned a little bit about legacy earlier, but let me ask you this question. What legacy do you want to leave behind?
I want people, when they think about their interactions with me, or their, how I may have influenced their lives, to be something that they think, had I never met Merrick, I would have never been able to experience X, Y, or Z in my life. And something profound happened to me a couple of weeks ago. I had a friend tell me that, he told me that had we not met and had we not crossed paths and been on the journey that we had together, that his life had been changed significantly because of me, right? For the better. And I thought that was such such a wonderful thing to tell somebody, basically saying, hey, had I not met you and had you not crossed paths with me and gave me a piece of information or advice, I wouldn't be where I am today. It's basically how they put it toward me. And that made me feel really good to know that I had that type of influence on somebody's life. And I think, for anybody that's in a leadership position or an empowered position, that they're able to help people and, change the trajectory of their lives, that's important. And it made me think today when I was saying to myself, one person can make a difference in the world or in somebody else's life. That's a real thing that can happen. Just based on influence and actions. So, we really need to be mindful when we're in these positions of leadership to do that and be able to make those things happen for the people around us.
Well, and that's so true, Mary. That's so true. And when you mentioned that you made such an impact on someone, and it's almost like a surprise when you hear it because you weren't expecting it at times. You're like, oh. And there's probably a lot of other people that maybe haven't talked to you or told you that you have touched and that you have influence. And this is just something I wanted to really highlight here, because for those that are part of the audience that are listening in, you never know who are you leading, who are you inspiring, and this is one of the key things around why we're having this kind of conversation, is because there might be somebody listening today that takes one piece of what Merrick is sharing and takes that information and then goes with that and grows from that and helps the next person and pays it forward. And that's a legacy. That's leaving a true legacy behind. And again, going back to the topic of overcoming our doubts. So can you imagine that young Merrick, that young boy growing up, if he would have like been afraid, if he was afraid to ask questions, if he was afraid to say, I want to tell this to the mayor or the soon to be mayor, if he was the one that listened to the guidance counselor and said like, okay, I can't apply to that school, all like those were people that, that were not really inspiring you to move forward, but there were other people that were in your corner that did inspire you, that did encourage you. And now you're in a position now where you get to encourage other people as well. And those that you may or may not know. And that is such a wonderful legacy to leave behind. And that's going to continue to grow exponentially. So I think we have a comment and a question here. Oh, okay, got a few comments here. So let me pause here before we close to see from the audience any comments, any questions. What are your thoughts around legacy? What are your thoughts around overcoming your doubts and being a better leader? Type your comments in the chat box and share those with us. And also, if you happen to want to be a part of the Empowered Leader Conversations, if you have a story that you want to share, that you want to leave this kind of legacy behind, get a hold of me, contact me, and let me know that you're interested in being a part of these conversations. And again, so let's see what comments we get as we continue to talk here. But Merrick, thank you so much. You've been such an inspiration to me. I definitely have been watching what you've been up to for the last couple of years. You've been a pillar to the community that you're a part of, and you continue. Everywhere you go, you're planting seeds. You're planting seeds everywhere you go, and that's just an amazing thing that you can do. You never know what that seed is going to grow into and, what that's going to spread into. It could be an entire forest just from that small little seed that you planted through a few words of wisdom that you shared today and that you continue to share through all the groups that you're a part of. So any last words you'd like to share with the audience before we close, Merrick?
I'd like to say thank you for tuning in today. Bella, thank you for having me on the show. I'm looking forward to seeing more Lead Empowered series from you. I know you're going to continue to bring great guests on and continue to get the word out about leadership. And I'm looking forward to watching you grow this coaching business. And I'm glad I'm just along on the ride with you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And again, I definitely will be checking you out in your company, mg4tech.com. Because I can't be doing all the website development myself. I definitely need some help with that. So
I tell people all the time that, we help you make your website work for you even when you're not working.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much, Merrick, for joining and for sharing your words of wisdom with the audience, with me. And thank you all of you for listening that tuned in live. And for those that are watching the replay, please share your thoughts, your questions, your comments, and any ideas as far as topics that you'd like to hear as part of the Empowered Leader Conversation. So don't forget to stay connected on all of my social media platforms, on Glow Belly Coaching Facebook page, Instagram, and also on the Lead Empowered with Coach Belly on YouTube. Thank you so much. Have a great evening or have a great day wherever you are in the world. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.